What's going on, boxing fans? This is Super Kid Frosty. This is going to be my Ji-Hoon Kim, Raymundo Beltran fight prediction. It's for the NABF lightweight title. And I think this is a pretty good matchup because I really think this fight's going to be a big slugfest. I think a lot of brain cells are going to be lost in this fight, so I think it's going to be a pretty rough and tumble one. It's against two guys who I wouldn't put them in the A class range or even in the A range. I mean, I think they're B ranked fighters, but they're good fighters in the sense that they bring a lot of excitement to the sport. I'll get into it a little bit with Raymundo Beltran. He was a good upstart boxer. Came in with the likes of Emmanuel Stewart, especially in his management. Now I believe he's still trained by Freddie Roach, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. He was for a bit trained by Freddie Roach. It was sparring partners for Manny Pacquiao and Amir Khan for a long time. So he's been in with some good competition, some good contention, even in sparring sessions. So and he's kind of coming back into his own after a couple losses earlier in his career. Two by KO, so he's kind of got a suspect chin, but who knows with this fight. Kim also has 2 KOs on his loss record, so that's what makes it so interesting, I suppose. But back to Beltran, he just had a win over Hammer and Hank Lundy, probably the biggest in his career. Won by majority decision. I'm going to base most of my stuff off that fight, most of my analysis of Beltran off that fight. I know he's looked different in other fights, especially against Sharif Bojera, who I think he beat. Obviously, Sharif won, but I think that was another good fight for Beltran. But for me, I think Beltran's got pretty decent speed. I think he's got a lot more speed than Kim. I think he's got a lot more technical ability than Kim. He's got a good left hook. He loves using the left hand of the body. But I'm going to base a lot of stuff off the Hank Lundy fight, and what I saw kind of has me skeptical a little bit going into this fight. He does keep his hands quite low, and he stands, from what I've seen in some of his fights, especially the Hank Lundy fight, he stands right in front of his opponents. He does use some head movement. He kind of dips his head down sometimes and slips a little bit, but he literally sticks his chin out almost right to his opponent, which I thought was kind of interesting. He does keep the right hand right in front of the face with the left hand out, so he slaps the jabs down quite a bit. But other than that, he doesn't have a whole lot of defense. He does take quite a bit of punishment. But I think he's overall more technically sound than Kim is going into this fight. I think he's got pretty decent foot movement, but I didn't see him be very aggressive in the Hank Lundy fight. I think he was maybe getting back to more of his boxing roots, but I know in the past he's been a more of aggressive fighter, and I'm interested to see the route he'll take with this Kim fight. And we'll get into that a little bit more. But to get on to Ji-Hoon Kim here, South Korean boxer, no amateur career, came in right as a teenager, lost a couple fights earlier in his career, and really has made his name now off being a staple on Friday Night Fights. He's a fan favorite. He's exciting. Teddy Atlas and Joe Tessitore love having him on the show for sure. From what I see, he's had some good wins, especially recently. Rahimov, he just beat Rahimov. Tyrone Harris, a good fight with him, beat him up. So he's beaten some pretty decent fighters coming up. Now for Kim, what you'll learn about him if you ever watch him on YouTube, or on Friday Night Fights, he has absolutely no defense whatsoever. I mean, he's learning a little bit. I think his last fight with Rahimov, he did show a little bit more defense. He's trying to kind of use the little Philly shell a little bit, but not too much success. He does use a lot of bobbing and weaving head movement, some cyclical movement with the head, but other than that, he's just his defense is his offense. He's a straight shooter guy, and he's very, very aggressive, very high output fighter. Um, Reminds me of another South Korean, the late Dooku Kim against Ray Mancini. If you just ever watch that fight, uh, Dooku Kim doesn't let up, and neither does Ji-Hoon Kim. So his spirit kind of lives on through Ji-Hoon Kim. Um, he's a very rough guy. He'll get in there, he'll smother you, uh, just punch you. I wouldn't say he's a fouler by any means, but he hits you hard. He'll smack your arms, he'll bring your guard down. Not very good footwork. He is vulnerable to uppercuts, straight right hands. Um, but he's got a pretty decent jab. It's a very strong jab. He's got a good straight right, which I think he needs to use a lot more. Some decent uppercuts, but he can get a little bit wild when he's in the pocket. So he's really kind of a typhoon of a fighter. I mean, he just comes in and just doesn't stop throwing punches. And honestly, he's won fights where he probably hasn't won a single round. He just knocks out his opponent or TKOs his opponent through sheer will and sheer output. So he's an interesting fighter to watch, that's for sure. For my final prediction on this, and going on to what I think both fighters need to do, one, I think Beltran, he needs to box. Honestly, I think that I think he needs to pick his punches well. He needs to be very smart and try to counter Kim as much as possible. I think he is pretty decent at countering punches, but I think that he needs to be smart about this fight. He can't just go in throwing wildly, and he can't stand straight in front of Ji-Hoon Kim. I mean, when that Hank Lundy fight, just watch that fight on YouTube. Most of the time, he's just standing right in front of Hank Lundy. I couldn't believe it. Catching a lot of jabs, a lot of straight right hands. So I think he needs to figure out a little bit more defensive style, and pick his punches, especially using those left hooks. I think he can do some real damage with the left hand. Seems to be his power hand, so that's what I think he needs to do. Just be wary of Kim's aggression and control it. Try to cage the animal a little bit. Move around a lot. Just stick him on the outside with the jab. I think that disrupts a lot of what Kim's movement's all about. Stick that jab in his face, and then cover up well too. He's got to be more defensively sound in this fight. For Kim, honestly, I think he needs to do what he's comfortable with doing, and that's being a very aggressive fighter. Now, I think he's grown a bit smarter in his last couple fights. I think he's learning how to counter a little bit from what I've seen in the Rahimov fight. And I think he's learning a bit more defense as well. But I think he just needs to be aggressive, have a high output, trap Beltran in corners, just pound on the body. And if Beltran is sticking that chin out, shoot that long straight right hand. Kim has a longer reach, I think, than Beltran, and he's also a bit taller by probably about an inch, which isn't huge, but use it. So stick the jab, maybe make your way in with the jab, but just be aggressive, bang the body, and use your output. And that's why I think I have Kim winning this one. I think either by a split decision or a close decision for Kim. I think he's going to lose some rounds, but I think overall he's going to just overwhelm Beltran by the end. But I could also see, this is what's so interesting about this fight is they're kind of matched quite evenly in terms of their records. I mean, they have almost an even record. I think Kim, in the recent, has fought some stronger opposition. Obviously, Hank Lundy, though, is a really good name to have on your record. So this is why it's kind of a throw-up fight. I'm going to go with Kim based on solely on a high output. I think that's going to really, in just watching Beltran's last fight, I don't think he was very aggressive. He took a lot of hits from Lundy, sitting right in front of him, and he just can't do that with Kim. And if that's what's going to happen, if it's going to be another Hank Lundy type deal for Beltran, I just see Kim overwhelming him, even a possible stoppage. But I'm going to go with a split decision or a close decision for Ji-Hoon Kim on this one. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a real slugfest, and it's going to be a good fight. So I'll probably do a post-fight recap for this one, maybe a post-fight recap for my Koku Kamada, Hugo Riaz prediction. But other than that, I'll probably do a prediction video coming up for Manny Pacquiao and Juan Manuel Marquez 4. And hopefully that will be the last one for that trilogy, or not trilogy, but rivalry. Hopefully this is the end-all be-all of that. So that is all for me, and hope to see you guys soon. Thank you.